Honorable Chief Minister of Karnataka, Shri Jagdish Shettar, my friend and colleague Chris Gopal Krishnan, President-designate of CII, guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to thank Chris and CII for inviting me to speak at the Innovation Summit. It's indeed a pleasure, firstly, to be in Bangalore, and secondly, to be with all of you, to share my thoughts with you on the subject matter, which is innovation. I think Chris has given a background of what innovation could span, and it is indeed a fairly wide slate in terms of what one could look at. But clearly, to me, when I look at what's happening in our country, whatever is happening is very closely linked to innovation and the process of change that we're seeing all around us. And the process of change we have seen over the last 3 or 4 decades is something that I don't think we have seen ever before in our own context. And in this, the most powerful driver has been technology. Technology in every single area, not necessarily technology in the IT business, but anything that we touch that has been an element of technology which has led change. And if you look back, take a step back and look back at the history of the technology industry, we see that indeed technology has come a long way from the time when the industry in a way was set up and grew as a code-breaking industry. And of course, computing machines thereafter were used for a variety of applications. And finally, after war was over, this energy was harnessed, as it were, for what we can term civilian or industry use. And it's, again, when you look back at the technology industry in the form that Bangalore is famous for, primarily famous for, it's really the 70s and the 80s which pushed the envelope in terms of bringing what one can term as rarefied technology. Technology as found in a mainframe, in a room which was air-conditioned, which was controlled, which you didn't know much about, virtually into your desktop, as it were. And thereafter, in the last 20 years, we saw further revolutionary change in technology. I sum it up always by saying that in the space of maybe 10 to 15 years, what happened was the mainframe from that rarefied room or space that it was in actually just dropped into your pocket. The machine that you have in your pocket today is far more powerful than the machines that we probably dealt with just a few years back. Add to that innovations in a whole lot of what I call shoulder industries, particularly the ability to communicate, link, transmit data, receive data, the whole development of the internet space, as it were. I think saw this industry take shape and form which we did not think was possible just a few years back. I don't think 15 years back we could have imagined what was the scope of this industry given current developments. And how rapidly the industry is changing and how much of a challenge it is for all of us here, I will illustrate with just one number or one fact, which I find surprisingly is not very much in the public domain. There are 100 million internet users in India today. That's what most databases tell you. What they don't tell you is that 50 million of those internet connected individuals or people are actually connecting using their handheld device. 50 million or 100 million. And I think that's not the real surprising part to me. That number a year back, that 50 million a year back, was something like 6 million. So there has been an 8x growth, an 800% growth in people connecting to the net using a handheld device in India in 1 year. And we all know that 3G still is in a nascent stage. It was probably the first year of rollout. Costs are still adjusting. Costs are low, but costs are adjusting. So we can just imagine with the, I would say, innovation driving costs down, both at the device end, the connectivity end, and the ability to do a whole lot of services using that handheld device, where growth will happen. And this growth, just a year back, was not visible to us. I think this is the sort of technological change in just one area that we are today facing and living with. And of course, this same example or these types of examples can be replicated in a whole range of other businesses. And to me, these sort of changes cause disruptive economic change, which we have been seeing. And at times, that's why we get misled by looking at some of the numbers that come up from economic surveys or what statistics tell us, because they don't factor in the impact of this sort of change. I think, again, as I said, this sets the context for the change that is happening. So what is successful innovation? I think Peter Drucker defined innovation as a change that creates a new dimension of performance. Clearly, innovation is something that disrupts what is traditional. In our context, that disruption, in the Indian context, is disruption of our Hindu growth of rate that we had celebrated for a number of years, and creates a new paradigm. And to me, that new paradigm is what I would call inclusive development. And I link these two as I go along. The question is always asked, when does innovation take place? And there are several people who say, but there's no innovation happening in India. There are no new products that happen which are globally celebrated and have made enormous money for people who have discovered these products. I think there may be a point in that, and probably the simple answer to that, maybe a simplistic answer to that, is to say that a whole lot of these sort of innovations, which made a whole lot of money for a few individuals, probably happened also in environments where there were markets for these sort of products. But that doesn't mean that we are not innovating. As Chris said, we probably are the innovation hub in Bangalore for a whole lot of global companies. And that innovation is then taken out and marketed globally. Now, that is happening because at that point in time, the Indian market was not big enough to absorb at one go the fruits of this innovation process. But even that will change. Even the aspect where India is a consuming hub for innovation will change, because as per capita incomes grow and the country goes up the GDP curve, as it were, I think that affordability will happen in India. Indeed, I would dare say it has started to happen in India. And the rate at which GDP is changing is indeed dramatic. It took us 25 years to grow our GDP or per capita income from around US dollars $250 to $500. And that happened between the years, I would think, the late 80s and 2003. 25 years to double our income from $250 to $500. It then took us 5 years to go from $250 to $500. By 2008, we were at $500. And then took us less than 4 years to go from $1,000 to $1,500. So clearly, affordability is setting in. And I would think the pace of innovation, which can be directly absorbed by the Indian consumer, I think will pro rata increase. And I think it's in this context that we need to think beyond in terms of where do we create the innovation hubs. I heard Chris make a plea, as it were, to the Honorable Chief Minister, the government, that projects and company startups that engineering college students would like to undertake, let us say in their last 3 years of college, should be counted as a course and eligible for them passing. I think it's a great suggestion, because it is these suggestions which create the momentum in terms of innovation, productization, and then taking the product to market very early in the mind of somebody who is young and has got the energy. Indeed, I talked about the implications of a growing economy. I think a growing economy provides the absorptive capacity for innovation in some of the areas which we would probably see the greatest drive in the next few years. In the next few minutes, I want to talk about, having said this, it's not that innovation has not been happening, particularly in the way that Indian companies have taken the fruits of the fruits of innovation to the global marketplace. And I would think 3 areas which I'll briefly touch upon, and I think set the context for what's happening and what I would like to see in the future. One indeed is the information technology sector. I think Indian IT companies in the space of less than 15 years have basically created an entirely new growth paradigm by driving a business with revenues of over $100 billion. A large part of these come from exports. The IT sector has become the engine of growth, and indeed helped what I would think was India crossed what I would think was a very difficult period in the 1990s. It became the engine of growth. It provided employment opportunities. It had linkage benefits, so more employment was created. And that started the consumer movement. So it is not just the employment creation potential that this business showed. It also, along with the innovation it did, provided this to economic development by, I would say, giving rise to the consumer who could afford things and who demanded things. And then I think manufacturing followed, innovated, and provided products which are affordable and of high quality to this mass. So you had the twin engines of consumption and investment driving growth. That was through the 2000s, as it were, from 2000 to 2010. But clearly, as this industry grew, it kept innovating. It kept innovating all the time, and introduced models which allowed it to thrive in the global marketplace. And just one model that I will point out, which Bangalore, and of course Infosys had a role in it, created, was the global offshoring model. And that model was really unheard of 10, 15 years back, but has come to, I would say, virtually define the Indian IT and technology industry. And to me, this model is just starting. It will evolve as we go along, as the fruits of some of the products that I mentioned, the power of the device which is in your pocket, connectivity, as these grow and evolve, the advent of cloud. I would believe that all of us will get actually absorbed into the cloud very soon. As this happens, this industry is again going to evolve. And I don't think Bangalore is going to lose or is going to give up its #1 position in this space. So the IT industry, which you broadly touched upon, I think is an industry which has innovated. It has not only taken innovation, but itself innovated to create enormous economic change in the country. And of course, enormous, and of course, a degree of wealth to its shareholders. I think the other area where innovation has taken place, which is visible, is a sector Chris briefly mentioned, that was the banking innovation. And here again, what was the innovation? The innovation was very simple. In the 1990s, when globally everything in the banking business ran on mainframes, banks starting with the ICICI Bank and several other banks in quick succession said that we are not going to go the mainframe route for a very simple reason. We can't afford it. A lot of times, this is how innovation happens. We can't afford it. So we are going to rewrite the paradigm and go along with technologies which we can afford. And we will have Indian software writers, again, like Infosys et al., who will provide us the software to run the programs on these machines, which are cheaper and we believe can meet our needs. And that call turned out to be right. And today, Indian banks are running, I think, banking books much bigger in terms of customer bases than several global banks on machines which are not mainframes at a fraction of the cost. And of course, as things have evolved, as the net has come on us, as connectivity has improved, they are actually going on to these areas and driving business in ways which I think the West is now trying to retrofit. So the ability to do business in the banking space at 1/10 the cost, 1/10 the cost of any global bank anywhere in the world, is the innovation that the marriage of technologies available within India, hardware probably gotten from wherever in the world, and the ability to apply our mind has actually, that is a result of this sort of a marriage that has taken place. And of course, we know that this is an evolutionary space and it will continue to evolve as we go along. I would, in this context, like to just make one other point, that the consumer in India, and if I stay on the banking business, I think the customer has to be complemented, because whatever technology has been thrown at the customer has absorbed the technology. In fact, at every point on the curve, I have felt that the customer was ahead of the curve, and we thought that we are going to be ahead, and the customer will have difficulty catching up with what we are going to provide him, but the customer has proven us wrong. The customer has been with us. The last area that I want to mention in terms of innovation and what is possible, I think is the brilliant example of the Tata Nano in an engineering context. Innovative engineering to provide a low-cost and reliable equipment. The equipment in this case being the car. And when the project was announced, very few people were convinced that this was possible, that it was possible to produce a car at such a low cost. However, Ratan Tata and Tata Motors clearly indicated that value engineering was possible, and indeed, you can create a product for this market. When you look back, you in a way are struggling for an answer. Why did not global companies do this in India or in their own host domains for so long? Why did it take an Indian company to do this? Again, I think the equation here was the paradigm that was required was get costs down, just as it was in the banking business. So it is possible for low-cost countries, low-cost economies to actually innovate and disrupt, and that leads to, I would say, accelerated economic development. Looking ahead, I think there is opportunity, there is significant opportunity in innovation when you look at the need to serve the bottom of the pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid as defined in the government context through a phrase, inclusive development. I would think inclusive development, embraces innovation in a mighty way. And innovation in sectors like IT, telecom, it's made a tremendous impact in terms of this whole inclusive agenda. And of course, much more can be done in this context. But it needs a completely different business model supported by robust, again, low-cost technology or lower-cost technology. And if I stay on the banking example, you have 600 million people in India who do not have access to financial services. This presents an enormous opportunity to banks and other intermediaries to actually tap into this large customer segment. The challenge is the same. Can you do it at a fraction of the cost at which you provide services to urban India? Indeed, you can today. 5 years back, you could not. Today, you can, because technology has evolved, and if you have kept pace with technology, you can serve that mass in terms of its aspirations in the financial services space. Of course, when you talk of inclusive banking, you need to talk of other areas of development which need to touch this mass: education for the masses, health for the masses, financial services, and the ability to get a job and get employed. I think these are all things that need to be looked at. I picked up one area where I believe the work done by Nandan in the context of Aadhaar, the work being done by banks in terms of opening out and reaching to the mass of the unbanked customers, I think makes it possible for us to take technology to the masses in the near term. The near term, I mean in the next 2 to 3 years. Let me conclude by saying that the Indian economy continues to go through what I call sea change. And despite the temporary slowdowns that we are seeing, my belief is that we should reach a GDP of around 4 trillion. We should reach GDP of or per capita incomes of around US$ 4,000, probably GDP around 5 trillion by the year 2020, which has tremendous implications. Implications for innovation, implications for absorption, implications for aspirations, and so on. So if we can channel innovation that is happening in Bangalore to this objective, that this is a growing India, there's an evolving need, there are aspirational opportunities, and there are opportunities around healthcare, food, food security, basic education, and employability. I think we need to look at the whole context of innovation in this broad frame. Of course, each one of us can work within our own context, but when we put all these together, I think we need to address this wide spectrum of opportunities. I put them as opportunities. At one end, there are also challenges, but you flip it, and it becomes an opportunity. So I think India becomes a land of what I would call endless opportunity. I think we are sitting here today in the innovation hub, and it is for us to seize this opportunity and deliver from Bangalore. I wish you all well in this endeavor, and I'm sure you will succeed. Thank you.